In the diffusion process, a gaseous compound, uranium hexafluoride, passes through a cascade of barriers, each one giving a slight enrichment of the lighter isotope U-235. The difficulty lay in finding a barrier that would not be degraded by the very corrosive gas. Scientists and engineers were not able to manufacture a satisfactory barrier until a year after site construction began on K-25. A building that would ultimately cover more area than any structure ever built. The U-shape measured half a mile long by 1,000 feet wide. With an area of 2 million square feet, it contained a series of sealed containers and cascades that ran the length of the building. Oak Ridge continued to grow, and by the end of the war, it was the 5th largest town in Tennessee.
Here is a declassified Manhattan Project document warning about fluoride's toxicity. Clinical evidence suggests that C16 may have a rather marked central nervous system effect with mental confusion, drowsiness, and lassitude as the conspicuous features. It seems most likely that the fluoride F compound, rather than the uranium T compound, is a causative factor. Due to the necessity for aluminum in arms production during World War I, World War II, nuclear armament for the Cold War, and fear of devastating lawsuits by crippled workers, fluoride suddenly became the star of a PR campaign that took the Western world by storm. But there has been a heated debate over fluoride ever since.
Gordon, we'll have the chance to discuss this. We want to recreate this story, both sides of this very controversial subject, as well as a film story on fluoridation in 60 seconds from now.
Tonight we'll hear both sides of the fluoridation story as Front Page Challenge welcomes Dr. Wesley Dunn, chairman of the Fluoridation Committee of the Health League of Canada and editor of the Canadian Dental Journal.
Dr. Dunn, is it true or false that sodium fluoride is a basic ingredient in rat poison?
I think it's fair to say that sodium fluoride is contained in a rat poison, and I think it's also fair to say that it's contained in tea. What comparison you wish to draw from that statement will be up to you to draw it. It is an ingredient of rat poison. Greater training should perhaps make
so that the citizens aren't intelligent enough to decide for themselves whether they want a rat poison shoveled into their drinking water.
In a modern example, the EPA union called for a moratorium on water fluoridation before the U.S. Senate on June 29, 2000, headed by EPA Union Vice President Dr. William Hersey.
Our union represents the staff, scientists, lawyers, and others who analyze hazard, exposure, and economic data and advise management how to use them in public health protection. I'm not here today to speak for EPA, but rather the union, founded 17 years ago to protect EPA workers from unethical pressure by EPA managers. It was on that basis in 1985 that we first got involved in this issue. In 1997, we voted to oppose fluoridation, and our opposition has grown stronger as more adverse data on the practice has come in. In the interest of time, let me state our recommendations first. We ask that you order an independent review of the cancer bioassay of sodium fluoride mandated in 1977 by Congress. Evidence for carcinogenicity in that assay was systematically downgraded by a special executive branch commission appointed and run by the very agencies that Congress did not trust to run the bioassay in the first place. That action saved fluoridation temporarily. We ask that you order chronic toxicity studies on the 2 waste products that are now used in 90% of fluoridation programs. EPA says there are at present no chronic toxicity data on them, and we ask that you order EPA set an MCL for fluoride that's truly protective of all American citizens, infants and adults alike, because the current one does not, in violation of the Safe Drinking Water Act. We ask that you order epidemiology studies using dental fluorosis as an index of exposure to determine the extent of other toxic effects, especially effects on the brain and bone in the population that are attributable to fluoride. We ask that you convene a joint congressional committee to give this issue the full airing that it deserves. It's been 23 years since the last one, and it's high time for a new one. I offer the following in support of these recommendations. The American people, and especially our children, are getting way too much fluoride. 2/3 of children living in fluoridated communities have dental fluorosis in at least one tooth. Dental fluorosis is the visible manifestation of toxic overexposure to fluoride during their developmental years. The initial findings of the cancer bioassay were for clear evidence of carcinogenicity, and that is consistent with several epidemiology and many mutagenesis studies.
If you want to know what fluoride is capable of, let's look at the proven negative symptoms of fluoride poisoning in the human body. Skeletal fluorosis, arthritis, IQ reduction, attention deficit disorder, central nervous system disturbances, osteosarcoma, bone cancer, dental fluorosis, bone fractures, nausea, abdominal pain, vomiting, irritable bowel syndrome, migraine-like headaches, suppression of the immune system, kidney disease, early onset puberty, asthma, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, reduced fertility, damaged sperm, hypothyroidism, hormone suppression, Alzheimer's, muscle weakness, tremors, hypoglycemia. But what does fluoride and its toxic effects have to do with solving human overpopulation? In my study, the benefits are fourfold. 1. The aluminum industry, who produces fluoride byproducts, have a means of disposing their waste by diluting it in our freshwater drinking systems. 2. It is a means of dumbing down the public, creating a lethargic civilization who are easily manipulated. 3. Lowering the population through diseases which may become terminal. And 4. Forced sterilization in a controlled area.
So this is a massive underground program. We have the documents where they had proven by the 30s that sodium and stannous fluoride would lower sperm counts, rots holes in the brains, on average a 20% IQ reduction when children drink it. They used it in the death camps to pacify the people. That's in Pulitzer Prize-winning books and declassified Nuremberg documents. The Soviets then adopted, the U.S. by the early 50s then adopted it. It's all part of a eugenics program. Now Reuters and even Scientific American admit all the scientific studies about lowering IQ, rotting holes in your brain, and the American Medical Association in 2005 and the American Dental Association admitted now that it actually rots holes in your teeth with fluorosis and causes all these problems and don't even recommend it anymore. Unbelievable. So see, now all this is coming out. The government isn't putting this in your water. I remember San Antonio. It started 10 years ago, wouldn't fluoridate their water. The federal government spent more than $20 million in billboards, TV ads, lobbying to get it fluoridated. They just fluoridated Los Angeles last year.
Yes, they did.
So now it's over 70% of the country that's fluoridating.
And it's a poison.
It is an absolute poison that literally lowers sex drive, lowers testosterone, destroys sperm count. Do you think that cities with fluoridated water have 80+% sperm count drops for nothing? Again, this is a sterilization, eugenics weapon, and it's all in the documents. It's all mainstream. This is not a conspiracy.
I would have thought you were nuts, Alex. I would have thought you were nuts, but not anymore.